Hi, this is János, it is Real World Audio, and I am checking in on the subject of balanced interconnect, balanced cables, and balanced amplifier topologies. And I'm following up on Human's comment, and this is what he shared with us. János, your take on the toroidal transformers was eye-opening and very helpful given their trend and the marketing push regardless of device class. I don't know if you ever shared your opinion in past videos or not, but I'd love to hear your take some point in the future, which happens to be now, on balanced cables versus single-handed. There is a growing trend, at least in the Class D transistor world, to do away with single-handed and go balanced only. It feels further departure from purity of sound, given that balanced cables require further manipulation of the sound signal, inversion, summation, etc. And I think I'm going to now share a few different aspects regarding the balanced topology and some of the benefits why they are being used and some of the complications that they represent. So I do not have much experience using balanced systems. Actually, I never played around myself with balanced interconnects. However, I have heard plenty of systems using balanced cabling throughout, and also have a little bit of insight on why they are using it, and probably I think there's many out there who are much better prepared to talk about the benefits of balance. I'm just sharing my perspective on it and also my mentor's perspective, because he knew way more about balance and he was way more experienced than me, and he just flat out refused to use them on the simple basis that when you go for a balanced system, it just adds so much to the cost that it makes it an irrelevant pursuit if any kind of budget is on your mind. And then some of you would say that there are really great sounding balanced systems for a relatively affordable money, but a single-handed equivalent to that would be even cheaper, or for the same price you could get a more refined single-handed amplifier or system. But let's look into it more in detail. Is that why do we use balanced systems and balanced cables? And the balanced cables were necessitated because in recording studios and in recording conditions, people use very long cables. Often there's like miles of cables running around in studios, and the only way to keep them hum-free is to use the balanced configuration. So balanced was created as a necessity to avoid hum during the process of recording. However, when your cable lengths are short in the few meters length, which is the typical length in a home environment that you use for your home system, then balanced is not required, because a single-handed cable can be kept perfectly hum-free in your home environment when you are not using too long cables. And there is like one exception when you live in, let's say, in a huge mansion and you need to run like tens of meters of speaker cable or tens of meters of interconnects, then yes, it is a really good idea to have balanced cables for that system to avoid hum, and that creates a specialty need for people who have excessively large homes with excessively long cable runs. And in my experience, the people I've met who have those kind of systems are the ones who are more into like the fashion type of high-end enthusiasts who go for systems like Dan D'Agostino, Wilson Audio, and Krell, and the big names, like when we do name droppings, and we drop these big solid state creations or that incredible prices, then that is that word that really attracted the use of balanced cables. And one of the simple reasons for that is that when we have a balanced system that really goes well with the balanced cable, it's if you have a single-ended system using a balanced cable, there is no benefit for it unless you have maybe like a 50 meters long cable that you need to connect two components together, like you have a mansion and your preamplifier is in one room, and downstairs in the whole reception hall, that's your amplifier, and you need to run like an excessively long cable, and then that's a good idea to run a balanced cable even when you are using single-ended components. And just at the end, just have an output transformer and an input transformer, and you can perfectly receive that balanced signal without, and transform it from single-ended to balanced, and from balanced back to single-ended without any complications. So in that case, I really see that a benefit for a balanced cable. And even though we are adding the phase splitting of the signal into two parts, but using a high enough quality transformer, it won't hurt the sound really. And of course, if we would be talking about really short cable length, like here's your turntable and there's your phono stage, and you need like this much, like 40 centimeters to connect them, then going to balance it's really a waste of resources. Especially given that on your cartridge there is no center tap on the cartridge, so it doesn't make any sense of how you would want to make it turn it to balance. But anyway, but if there's like a really long distance between the components, or you are designing your audio gear into an environment that suffers excessively from hum, then it's good to use balanced, like whenever you have distances like longer than 2 meters or more. And unfortunately, with the advent of these LED lights, like the one that I'm using here and there, actually I have 3 LED lights just lighting me for this video, and the SMPS power supplies that feed these LED lamps are just like monsters of generating hum and noise, and the exponential of increase of these devices, and there's your cell phone, etc. I think it's kind of like mandating that we will be, maybe we could be forced to using balanced cables, like for more and more shorter and more extreme situations, just to avoid picking up all of that excessive hum that we are being subject to. But if you live in a home that's relatively free of these interruptions, then and you don't need to run excessive cable length, then as Frank Garetz, he posted in one of his recent comments that each technology brings benefits to the table, but there's a price you have to pay, and the question is, are you willing to pay the price or not? And we always have to balance it out, whether the benefit they bring in a specific case is more, or the price we pay is more in a specific case. So for example, in cases when we have excessive cable runs, then the benefits they bring with hum suppression and RFI, EMI pickup far outweighs the evils that they give by splitting the signal into two halves. However, when we have a really short signal where there's no benefit for hum cancellation, then the fact that we are splitting the signal can be disruptive in a system that is high, that has high enough resolving power, and this will be like a really subtle low level disruption. So those of you who are listening to balance systems, you will say that when I changed from single-ended to balanced, it became a billion times better, because now my system opened up, can handle power, impact, energy. But what you are not noticing is that if you spend that much time and energy into researching a single-ended system, then you would have noticed that in that case, it's true that you are not getting as much power, as much impact, as much energy, but you are getting a whole lot more in the really subtle, very low level signal domain. So each of these choices, so single-ended with single-ended cables versus the push-pull and balanced cable topology, they both have their benefits and their shortcomings. And when we're looking at single-ended with single-ended cables, where they shine is a smaller home, a smaller acoustic space with short cables, straight path, simple topologies without complications, and shining at low level signal, at tonality, at harmonic content. And when we look at the balanced amplification, balanced topology, balanced cables, they really shine when it's a really huge space. Like for example, like you have like a huge concert hall and you need to amplify it, or like a movie theater. That kind of cases, that's where they have an edge. And you just have to pick which is it that matters to you, or what are the conditions, what are the goals that you need to be running them. Because when you go for balanced, it's not just the balanced cable, but the balanced cable will be truly beneficial when it feeds a balanced amplifier, which means that there is literally two single-ended amplifiers mirrored and meeting at the center. And some say that now that it's really good because they balance out each other, but that's not really true. There is a balance, but it means that when the signal turns like from upper phase, like the voltage goes from higher than the baseline and then drops to lower than the baseline, then both of these halves are subject to equal distortion spectra from the two halves of the system. However, what people are forgetting is that now we have double the distortion compared to the single-ended, because when you go for single-ended, let me see, can I maybe let me try to look for something. Let me just show you something here. I will try to bring up let's see, there we go. And I don't see the, where is my OBS studio? I have disappeared. I have to, okay, there I am, I see it now. So here we go, tube SQL database. Let's click on that, and let's just bring you up something. Which tube? Maybe ER34. And I want to see the plate curves for the amplifier. Nah, they're not showing the plate curves. You know what? Maybe like curve. There it is. Can we see it? Is it high enough quality? 12AX7. That will be fine for us. So there it is, perfect. So we just brought up some random tubes plate curves. First thing that I found when search is 12AX7 tube, and And let's see what I'm talking about. Let's see that this shows the plate current milliamperes and this shows the plate voltage. So let's say that your 12AX7 is biased to 1 milliamp plate current, and we are using, let's say, like a 200 volts plate voltage, which would be kind of like stressing the tube. So let's just stick to something closer here, something like 160. Something, where is it? Anyway, let's just call it, it is not exactly 160, it's a little less, maybe 140. 1 milliamp at 140, and at this stage, what is this? So this is like minus half, is this? No, minus 1 volt. Yeah, minus 1 volt. So if it's minus 1 volt on the grid, 1 milliamp plate current is given by something like 140 volts on the plate. So given this operating condition, when we are operating this tube stage and there comes a signal, and with that signal the grid voltage swings to between half volt and minus 1.5 volts. So basically it's a 1 volt signal, right? It's riding up half volts and then riding down half volts. So it's a sine wave that's centered around the 1 volt. So now what we have here is that when the tube is going up here, can you see? Yeah, you can see my cursor, that's fine. So as we go up here in the voltage, then the plate current increases, and it's not just the plate current increasing, but the the load characteristics of the tube are changing as well. Its plate resistance will be different than when it was at that minus 1 volt grid. And when it goes down, it reaches back to 0 at the half of the cycle, and for the other half of the cycle it drops down. So now the plate resistance will change towards the other direction, and then it will return back to normal. And then people are saying that, when I'm using push-pull, then I have only one half of it. No, you're having both, because when you have the push-pull configuration, then your both of the stages are going up and down. So when your signal is going up, so one of the tubes, one of the devices, the plate resistance is getting skewed towards this direction, then the other tube gets skewed to the other direction. And for the next cycle, next half of the cycle, they go the opposite way. So you are adding in each half of the cycle both of these distortion components to the signal. So you are effectively, with a balanced configuration, you are doubling up those RP modulations that the deviation from the standard standby bias current is generating. So we are adding double that content, and so it's I don't think that, but how the whole thing works out, it's like also depends on how the stages interact with each other, how your amplifier interacts with your speakers, how your speaker interacts with the room. So it's like a whole complex scenario, but all in all, the balanced config adds more deviation from the signal than just a single-ended does. And plus, let's add to the fact that we need to split the signal to two halves to create a balanced configuration. And even when we use a transformer, the center tap will never fall exactly to the exact center. Maybe it can get really, really close, but totally the center, and then have like the two wires, the exact same resistance, exact same impedance down to the 0.000. No, there will be differences. But actually, like the phase splitting, if done by a transformer and through your interconnects, the deviation between the two halves will be really, really minute, really, really minimal. But they will be still present. But the big ones will be once we hit the amplifier, because then the two halves of the balance, the gear, there will be mismatches between the two, and those will be audible. And now what the companies do is who build balance systems is they apply negative feedback to even out the two stages, to erode the difference between the two stages and normalize them and make their contributions equal or nearly equal. But the problem is that it's been done by feedback, and feedback always erodes low level signals. So by trying to avoid the problems that the phase splitting does, that having two separate amplifiers trying to work as one, and we try to make them that works well when the signals are large, but when we go to the lower end of the dynamic spectrum, it's erased, the signal is erased there. So that's why when we have a single-ended amplifier, it will work better when we want to have an experience with really low level material. And when we have that super low level material, that's where the emotional content of the music comes through. So when you have a system that is extremely emotional, that is because you can hear that super low level detail and the extreme coherence that is present in the signal that allows that really low detail level to come through. And when you don't have that low level detail, and then you have a lot of feedback employed to just really keep the sound in a coherent, then you will be allowed to have tremendous power output, and it will be really impactful, big sound, extreme SPRs, really wide frequency range, but you won't have such a like an internal experience. It won't be personal. It will feel an impersonal perspective. And when people are working in recording studios and using this type of gear that has this balanced topology and then making balanced recordings, then it just feels totally normal that this is how the sound is. And then when you come from that background, then you listen to singer and it's BS. It's just like, this is playground, because you try to play the same material that you record on a system and it won't play it well. But then when you just pick up like me, I have like this simple system, like I pick up my Emanuel Feuermann recording and put it on a balance system, and it will sound like crap. And if I put it on here, and you will start crying, because it's like it just touches you so deep that your life is changed forever. And I think that's the gist of how the single-handed things work together. They touch you emotionally, and it's when you want to listen by yourself, maybe just have a few friends, turn off the lights, really quiet room, and just stay in your own acoustic space. You don't need to be transported to a different acoustics, just right here, and time travel. So for me, how I feel these things happening is that when Emanuel Feuermann is playing, then I'm going back to where he is, like 40s or late 30s, or whenever, I forgot when he was recording. I mean, the recording that I have, and it's like I'm back in the time, and it feels like the it's kind of like the earth around me has changed, and I'm not in the 21st century, but I'm in the beginning of the 20th century, and I feel that the culture that was present on earth at that time, it is coming here. And of course I wasn't alive at that time, but my grandparents were. And when I was talking to them, they were telling me about their childhood, about when they were young. I get the same energy from the recording emanating when I was conversing with my grandparents about that era, and it's just totally spooky that how strong these things can get through. Or there's another recording. Oh, which one was that? I will dig that up. That was one of the creepiest experiences I ever had in my life. It is a piece that had its opening, so it was a theater performance, and the opening was when the Second World War broke out, and it was in Germany, and it's crazy. It's kind of, I felt like I am there in Germany, and Second World War just erupted, and all the mayhem, all the chaos, and it was like the creepiest thing I ever experienced. And that is not something that you will ever experience with a balanced system. With the balanced system, you will experience the outward journey, the big, the show, the performance, the stage, when you have a large crowd, that type of exposure, that type of experience. It will push you towards the show. And when you have single-handed, it will push you towards substance. And of course, there's always a balance to be found. In most cases, when you design your system, it's really up to your choices, because we all have to make choices when we design our systems. And I think probably if you are following Edward Brockman's channel, he is also experimenting with his voice over Lancelot speakers and his tube gear, phono stage, and he has taken the route to experiment with push-pull configuration and both single-handed configuration amplification in his system. And he also tried out balanced cable versus single-handed cable from the phono stage to the from the turntable to the phono stage, and there are pros and cons for using everything, and the push-pull configuration can work out. So for example, that's also one of the things that I'm using here, is that I have two systems, two amplifiers in my main system back here, driving the voice over Lancelots, and all the cabling throughout is single-handed, phono stage single-handed, and I have a single-handed amplifier, which is the low-power single-handed amp with two stages alone, and the push-pull ampexes. And I use the push-pull ampex when I want to listen to movies, and actually mainly because they have much higher gain. I do not have active preamplifier in my system. I have the passive volume control, which cannot add gain beyond unity gain, beyond what the output is from my sources, and my single-handed amplifier is exactly dialed in, so the gain structure of the amplifier is totally 100% tuned in to my phono stage's output. So when I put on a record and I set the volume control to the max, then that goes through as the most optimal sound through my single-handed amplifier. And when you run it through unity gain and you do not have to take away from the signal, there is an exponential jump in the sound quality, even from the one tick below the maximum volume. It's just like the difference between those two is just, I would say, like astronomical distances, that big. And I can listen to anything, any time of the day with that maxed out. Even though like the speakers are over 100 dB sensitive, and I have about 1.2 watts per channel driving them, so I'm getting like a peak signal over 100 dB, but it never comes through as too loud or fatiguing or anything. And whatever I listen to it is just fantastic, and it's just so full of nuances and just optimal, just right. However, when I want to turn on Netflix or put in an audiobook through my phone, I can't hear a thing, because those things don't have any kind of decent output on them. So that's why I go for the Ampexes, because they already have full output from 150 millivolts. So using 150 millivolts, they just get full gain. And so that's why most of the cases I just use the Ampex with the push-pull output, and also that has the ability to put out a lot more power than just 1.2 watts. And even though for me that 1.2 watts is plenty and I don't need more, but when I add really that extra juice from the push-pulls, that creates a sound pressure level that I can only describe as scary. So when it's so loud that it turns on you the elemental fear, when you have like that level of like base energy hitting you, it's scary, and you fear for your life. And that's like a totally different layer or level of experience. And usually people don't get there, because long before that time, typical systems that you hear, even in the $1 million range, already cause enough fatigue that you are already shut down mentally before you can reach that level where it becomes like that gut fear zone hitting you. So and that fatigue and then that exhaustion just overrides any other aspect of perception. And so that's one thing, but that is something so intense that I only do that maybe like 2 or 3 times a year, and then I don't listen to that every day. It would be just too much. It's just too much. It's like it causes so much hormonal release in your brain, that all that dopamine, serotonin, everything going totally crazy. And I could do that more times. I could do it every night for a week or so or more, but I did that before, and I know that when I do that, that seriously messes me up. It's kind of like getting hooked to some really bad drug. I never taken drugs, but it makes if you listen to that kind of SPAs with a system that can give emotionality so deep that it impacts you as much as if like a family member passing away, or you going through like the biggest event, maybe you receiving a Nobel Prize or something like that. So something that gives you such high that even, you know, on your deathbed, you remember it as peak moment of your life. When you have a system that is capable of delivering such emotional impact and such insane energies, they will have such a profound impact on you. And we as human beings are just built emotionally so that we cannot just go through traumas like that every day in our lives. It totally would mess us up and would make us completely incapable of living a normal life. And that's why I do not really try to force it on everyone and say that you have to build a voice of Lancelot with a little higher power, really refined amplifier, because it will, pardon my French, fuck you up royally if you don't know how to control yourself. So first, you can only choose this route if you have iron control over your will and over curbing your desires. Because this is like a level of addiction that's beyond anything you can imagine. When you see people who are really junkies on drugs, you would get this to the same spot if one would abuse that and is not ready for that. So I think that's why the most important thing about audio is, if you want to have this kind of experience, which is a total out of the world experience of how we experience sound and music and emotion, and what does it mean to be a human being, and what is art when you can absorb art in its pure form. You need to be first mature to get to that level, to absorb all of that and incorporate it into you and become a better human being, and next day be gentler to your fellow co-workers, family members, your kittens. And actually it's like a huge trauma on them when I listened to that level. And actually, after living with cats for like and audio for over 2 decades, 2.5 decades, I can really tell when an animal is stressed out of the sound because it sounds so bad they cannot handle it, or it's just the emotional impact impacting them. And for example, like Machi the girl is emotionally so much more stable and can handle so much more than the boy. The boy is just so sensitive. He's like a little delicate flower, and if people raise their voices, he just what's going on? And you know, when you have these large energies going and people like singing at the top of their lungs, when the music just flowing out, it's extremely traumatic. And simply, even like if I can handle some of it myself, but these poor little ones, I really don't want to expose them to too much of that kind of traumatic experience. And yeah, so and that's also just as a side note, it's great to have cats because they help you to how to choose your music material, because if it stresses them out, it has the exact same emotional impact on you as well. Just you are not aware of it at the moment. Later on you will be, and probably it will be too late when you realize what happened. And if you listen to it like once or twice, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you regularly subject yourself to it, it will profoundly impact you on the long run. And when choosing music, and it has as a content that is beneficial and builds me up, the cats react to that, and they tell me that yes, they like it. So even though there's like a lot of energy going, lot of impact going, but they are absorbing it, and they are really intense, they are fully aware, but they enjoy it. And when I stop it, they look at me, can we continue, can you put it on again? Please. And then like I release the sofa, but much still stays in the sweet spot and just looking at me. Yeah, can you put it on again? Flip the record the other side, please. And she's looking at the red turntable, looking at me. When I flip it, she's like, we continue. So when you have that kind of situation going on, you know that you are safe. But when you have your animal fleeing the room, then like when I put on Björk, they just leave. The Björk Medulla, the new album, which I have the copy, which is just messed up. The way it's been mastered is it's been butchered. When I put on Björk's first album, the debut and the first two albums, they love it. They are here and listening with me. Those are mastered wonderfully. She is just brings that pure energy, just like from a nice center point. You feel like you are by the ocean, and then then she expands from there and takes you with her energy. And then she brings you back into your own room, and we all have a wonderful journey. It's just fantastic. And So I don't know, don't even know where I started this video. Balance cables. How on earth did we get here to cats and music and emotional impact and how to, you know, how to curb your excessive excesses. So thank you, Human, for this wonderful comment. And I received additional questions asking about balanced systems, balanced cables. So I really hope that this was my little answer. We could talk much more about it, but I think for starters, this is good. So live long and prosper. Where is it? There it is. And have a wonderful day, and let's stop the recording. Where is the button? It's on the computer. I'm clicking with the mouse now.